Hi Happy Knitters, and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about sock knitting. I know that there's a lot of knitters out there, or beginner knitters, that are kind of shying away from sock knitting because they think it's complicated and hard. And I'm here to tell you that that is just not the case. I started knitting socks last year, so even I kind of still consider myself to be a beginner. But I want to kind of give you guys some tips on what I've learned so far from my sock knitting experience, so that you guys can go ahead and jump right in or dive into sock knitting, because sock knitting is absolutely fun. You know, it's something that you can give to your friends, you can wear yourself. So anyway, so let's get started. I've made myself some notes so that I wouldn't forget anything that I wanted to cover today. So I want to first talk about the yarn. So for sock knitting, you need to use fingering weight or sport weight, or you can even use worsted weight yarn for sock knitting. But typically for socks that you want to actually wear in shoes, you would go with the finger weight yarn. And in order to complete a pair of socks, it usually takes about 100 grams of yarn to do that. So yarn comes in many different varieties when it comes to sock knitting. So you can have your typical one skein yarn. This is I think 50 grams, so you would need to technically buy 2 of these in order to complete a pair of socks. Or you can get them already divided. This is something that I bought from TurtlePurl off of Etsy. She makes absolutely fabulous yarn for sock knitting. I don't think you can see that. I don't know why it's not focusing. But anyway, she takes her yarns and she automatically already divides those so that you can have matching sets of yarn and not have to worry about dividing the ball. So I think that's a pretty good deal. So the next thing I want to talk about is how yarns come. You can get yarns in solid colors, you can get yarns in self-striping colors, gradient color, paint. I mean, any type of colors you can think of, they come in sock yarn weight. So it's limitless as to what you can knit with sock yarn. The next thing I want to talk about are going to be the needles. So typically when you're knitting with fingering weight yarn, you usually will use a size 0, 1, 2, or 3, depending upon how loose or tight of a knitter you are. So when it comes to sock knitting needles, you can go with double pointed needles, which, let me find a pair here. This would be yourself knitting one sock at a time. And double pointed needles you would use because the circumference is kind of small, but if you're comfortable with double pointed needles, that's definitely a way that you can go. You also have the ability to knit with longer corded needles. I typically like to knit my socks 2 at a time because I do have second sock syndrome. So I learned that as I was knitting, but this is typically when you're doing 2 at a time knitting, you would go with a 40-inch, at least a 40-inch cord. Some people can usually will even go up to a 47-inch cord. But these are my Addi sock needles. I really do like these. They're a great needle. The only thing that I would say about the Addi sock needles, at least for me, I think the chemicals in my hands have a tendency to turn or tarnish the Addi needles, and I'm not sure if any other knitters have that issue or had that issue. But yeah, it tarnishes the needle where my hands actually touch. So that was kind of a little bit of a bummer. But as far as the quality of the needle itself, I think it's just me and my body chemistry that has an issue with tarnishing these needles. But anyway, these are 2 at a time socks, and like I said, magic loop, and you can definitely use these longer needles to knit your socks. But you can also take that same technique and you can knit them 1 at a time with a longer cord if you wish, if you're not into the 2 at a time method. They also have new needles out there. They're little small, little 9-inch circular needles. I have not tried those, and I'm not sure that I even will, only because, like I said, I like to typically knit my socks 2 at a time so that I can begin them at the same time and end them at the same time and know that they are exactly the same size. So next, I want to talk about the methods of sock knitting. So there's 2 methods of sock knitting. This is a sock that I knitted last year, and you can knit socks top down, or you can knit socks toe up. It's really a personal preference for you once you get started on sock knitting. I am a toe up girl. I like to use toe up because I can start with the toe and literally just knit until I run out of yarn. So that's one of the advantages to doing toe up. Toe down, typically you have to guesstimate where to stop so that you won't run out of yarn, so that you can have enough yarn to finish the toe. And that's not typical with the toe up process. But like I said, once you get started, you will get your groove and you'll kind of know what method that you like. So I would suggest that you try both of them in the beginning and just see which one works best for you. The other thing about knitting socks is the heel and the toe. There are a variety of heels that you can insert when you are typically knitting socks. There's the Flegel, which is my go-to. There's a fish lip kiss heel that a lot of knitters like now, and you can get that pattern on Ravelry for just $1. So I've downloaded the pattern. I have not yet tried it, but it is something that is on my to-do list. But typically I go with the Flegel heel. It's real easy and simple for me, and it's the one that I learned first, so I kind of stick with that, and it works for me. And you also have lots of methods for decreasing on the toe. So there's lots of patterns out there that give you different decreases for your toes. So anyway, like I said, if I can do sock knitting, then so can you, because I haven't been doing it for very long, but it's something that I dove into and I have really, really enjoyed. So I think that's pretty much kind of what I want to cover for just tips for knitting socks if you guys are thinking about it. I am going to in the future do a tutorial on just your basic sock knitting pattern so that you guys can follow along if you have not ever knitted socks. Like I said, it seems intimidating at first, but I promise you that it's not the case. And with any kind of knitting that we do for ourselves, there's always lots of different tools that you can buy that help the process. I do want to say that if you do want to venture into doing 2 at a time sock knitting, they make this bag is from Utterly Adorable Knits, and it's Jennifer Franks is on Etsy, and she makes such amazing bags. But she does a 2 at a time bag where it's slotted, where you can keep both of your balls separate without them getting tangled. And I bought this from her sometime this year, and I have not ever regretted my purchase. So anyway, I think that is pretty much all that I wanted to cover in this video. We talked about the yarn, we talked about the needles, we talked about the methods of top down and toe up. So I think that was pretty much what I wanted to cover. And like I said, if you guys are thinking about starting or thinking about doing or trying sock knitting, please do, because it's just a misnomer that it's hard, because it's not. Because if I can do it, then you can do it too. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.